December 21st, 2014, from Soldier Field in Chicago, Illinois. It was the Detroit Lions versus the Chicago Bears in this NFC North Division rivalry matchup. So Lions entered this game in first place. They're tied with Green Bay, but had the tiebreaker and needed to win to keep pace there in the NFC North, although the Lions had already clinched a playoff spot due to the Eagles' loss the day before. And so now Chicago would start with the ball in this game, and they would have it on their own 25 after the kickoff, but they would go 3 and out on their first possession, as Jimmy Clausen had been given the start in this game over Jay Cutler. But the Bears would punt from their own 29, and now the Lions would take over on their own 13 with about 13 and a half minutes left in the first. They would pick up a couple first downs, but after 7 plays, they would punt from their own 48. Although they did make it into Chicago territory, but a sack by Jared Allen on 3rd down of Matthew Stafford is what would lead to the punt. And so now Chicago would get the ball for the second time in this game. They had on their own 17, less than 10 minutes left in the first, and they went 3 and out for the second consecutive possession of this game and would punt from their own 21. So now the Lions would take over near midfield at their own 43 with about 8 minutes left in the first quarter. And they were faced with a 3rd and 6 from the 47, and a defensive pass interference call against the Bears would make it a first down in Chicago territory for the Lions on the 38 of the Bears. They were then faced with a 4th and 6 on the 34, and they elected to go for it instead of attempting a 50-yard field goal, as field goals have been something rough for them this year, and it's the Windy City, so they went for it. Stafford out of the shotgun. He went to Reggie Bush for a short pass, and Reggie Bush ended up taking it 21 yards all the way to the red zone to the Chicago 13 for the first down. They then handed it off to Reggie Bush out of the shotgun, and he took it 13 yards all the way to the end zone for the touchdown to put the first points on the scoreboard in this game, with the score Detroit 7, Chicago 0. So now the Bears would take over on their own 20 with about 5 minutes left in the first, and they would end up moving the ball to midfield and into Detroit territory. And they would actually bring the quarter to a close with a 2nd and 10 from the 26, and Jimmy Clausen scrambled for 4 yards. So after 1 quarter of play, the score was Detroit 7, Chicago 0. So to open up the second quarter, the Bears had the ball on the Detroit 22. It was 3rd and 6. Jimmy Clausen out of the shotgun, and he went to Alshon Jeffery for a 12-yard reception that made a first down on the 10. So it was 1st and goal on the 10. They actually, on first down, Matt Forte ran for 9 yards, but then an incomplete pass and a run for no gain would make it 4th and goal on the 1. They elected to go for it, and there ended up being an incomplete pass and a penalty against the defense, unsportsmanlike conduct. There was actually an offensive pass interference call that was declined, but either way, it was a turnover on downs for the Bears, and now the Lions would get the ball on their own 17 due to the penalty, and there was about 13 minutes left before halftime. They would pick up some first downs and get the ball to midfield, and they were faced with a 3rd and 5 from the 50. Stafford then went to Golden Tate. He picked up 34 yards and a first down in the red zone at the 16-yard line. But then Stafford was sacked by Jones for a 1-yard loss, and on 2nd and 11 from the 17, Stafford dropped back to pass, and he was intercepted by Vereen. And so now Chicago would take over on their own 20 after the turnover. So with 8 minutes left in the second quarter, they had the ball on their own 20, but they actually would end up losing 3 yards on first down and end up going 3 and out and punting from the 17. So now the Lions got the ball back at midfield on their own 46 with 7 minutes left in the second quarter. And they would get into Chicago territory and into the red zone. They were faced with a 3rd and 11 from the Chicago 18. Stafford out of the shotgun. He was intercepted by Mundy. And so the second interception in Chicago territory as the Lions were about to score as they were in the red zone. So 2 interceptions in the red zone, and now the Bears would take over on their own 2-yard line after the second interception with about a little over 4 minutes left before halftime. They picked up some first downs, and they got the ball up to their 35. It was 3rd and 6. Clausen then went to Alshon Jeffery for an 18-yard reception that brought the ball to Detroit territory at the 47. But then they would be faced with a 4th and 3 and a false start. But actually, they take the false start so they can move back for the punt, and they punted the ball, but it was actually muffed by Ross and recovered by McManus, and now the Bears would take over on the Detroit 11-yard line after the special teams mishap by Detroit. And so the Bears would start with this possession in the red zone, and on first down, Jimmy Clausen hit Matt Forte, and Forte took it into the end zone for the 11-yard reception for the touchdown and put the Bears' first points on the game. And this score was now tied up at 7 apiece between the Lions and the Bears. So now the Lions would get the ball before halftime with just 30 seconds left. They had on their own 26. Stafford went to Theo Riddick. He picked up 10 yards and a first down to the 36. But then on the 2nd and 10, Stafford was sacked by Ratliff, and the first half came to a close. So after one half of play, the score was Detroit 7, Chicago 7, as this one was knotted up at a touchdown apiece. So now to begin the second half, the Lions would start with the ball first, and after the kickoff, they had it on their own 32 to begin the first possession of the second half. They were then faced with a 2nd and 3 from the 39. Stafford hit Golden Tate for a 6-yard reception, and so now it was first down on the 45 for the Lions. Then on 3rd and 8 from the 47, Stafford went to Reggie Bush. He picked up 14 yards and a first down at the Chicago 39. Then Stafford went to Ross. He picked up 11 yards and a first down at the 28. But they wouldn't be able to get another first down, and on 4th down from the 21, Matt Prater would come out to attempt the 39-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and the Lions took the lead with the score now Detroit 10, Chicago 7. So now the Bears get the ball with about 10.5 minutes left in the third. They had it on their own 20. They were faced with a 3rd and 1 from the 29, and Clausen ended up picking up 3 yards in the first down at the 32. Then on 2nd and 6 from the 36, Clausen went to Jeffery. He picked up 9 yards in the first down at the 45. Clausen then went to Wilson. He picked up 11 yards in the first down at the Detroit 44. Then on 2nd and 1 from the 35, Clausen went to Jeffery. He picked up another 9 yards and a first down now at the 26. Forte then lost 4 yards. And then a penalty against the offense for holding would bring him back to the 39 for 3rd and 23, and an incomplete pass would bring up 4th down, and out would come the punting unit. But then a roughing the kicker penalty would make it a first down for the Bears on the Detroit 24. So the drive should have been over, but the roughing the kicker and the drive was still alive. And then on 3rd and 6 from the 20, Jimmy Clausen out of the shotgun hit Alshon Jeffery for a 20-yard touchdown pass to give the Bears back the lead with the score now Chicago 14, Detroit 10. So now the Lions would take over with 3 minutes left in the third, and after the kickoff, they had on their own 20. They're faced with a 3rd and 2 from the 28. Stafford hit Golden Tate for a 5-yard reception and a first down. And then from first down from the 33, Reggie Bush ran for 2 yards as the third quarter came to a close. So after 3 quarters of play, the score was Chicago 14, Detroit 10. So now the Lions would open up the fourth quarter with the ball on their own 35. It was 2nd and 8, and an incomplete pass would bring up 3rd down. Stafford then went to Calvin Johnson Jr. He picked up 26 yards and a first down in Chicago territory at the 39. They were then faced with a 4th and 2 from the 31. They elected to go for it, and Stafford hit Golden Tate for a 13-yard reception, a first down in the red zone at the Chicago 18. But their drive would end up stalling, and they would end up bringing out the field goal unit on 4th and 11 from the 19. Matt Prater came out to attempt a 37-yarder. It was up, and it was blocked. Ratliff blocked the field goal, and so the score remained Chicago 14, Detroit 10. So now the Bears would take over after the blocked field goal on their own 27. They did get a first down, but after 5 plays, they would end up punting from their 44. So now the Lions got the ball back on their own 27 with less than 8.5 minutes left to play in regulation, down by 4. And on first down, Reggie Bush picked up 10 and a first down at the 37. Then on 3rd and 10 from the 37, Stafford dropped back to pass. He aired it out. It was incomplete, but a defensive pass interference call against the Bears would make it a first down for the Lions in the red zone on the Chicago 17. They then handed off to Joique Bell, and Joique Bell took it all the way to the house, 17 yards for the touchdown to give the Lions the 3-point lead with the score now Detroit 17, Chicago 14. So now the Bears would take over with just over 7 minutes left to play, and after the kickoff, they had on their own 18. And on 3rd and 8 from the 20, Jimmy Clausen out of the shotgun, dropped back, and he was sacked by Ndamukong Suh for a 2-yard loss. And so out would come the punting unit as the Bears went 3 and out on this possession and would punt from their own 18. So now the Lions would take over on their own 46 with 5.5 minutes left to play in the fourth, up by 3. They're faced with a 2nd and 2 from the 46. Joique Bell picked up 20 yards on a first down that brought the ball to the Chicago 26. Then on 3rd and 1 from the 17, Collins picked up 3 and a first down at the 14, and the Bears used their second timeout. But the Lions were not able to get another first down, and out would come Matt Prater. This was after the Bears had used their third timeout a couple plays earlier. But Matt Prater would come out to attempt a 30-yard field goal. It was up. It was good. The Lions now extended their lead to 6 points with the score Detroit 20, Chicago 14. So after the kickoff, the Bears would take over on their own 21 with 2.5 left to play, trailing by 6, needing to go 79 yards for the touchdown for the win. They picked up a first down, but then on 4th and 10 from the 45, they would have to go for it with just over 2 minutes left. Jimmy Clausen out of the shotgun. He was intercepted by none other than Glover Quinn as he comes up with a clutch interception. It was actually reviewed, and it was ruled that yes, he did intercept it and he was in bounds. So this game went to the 2-minute warning. Now coming out of the 2-minute warning, the Lions would take over on their own 25 after the interception, and the Bears not having any timeouts. All that was left to do for Detroit was for Matthew Stafford to take 3 knees as this game came to a close with the final score Detroit 20, Chicago 14. And with the win, the Lions remain in first place. They have the same record as Green Bay, but at the moment they have the tiebreaker, and they will be playing the Packers next week in a battle for the division for the AFC or the NFC North. How would I make that mistake? Obviously, NFC North. And they are now 11-4, 4-3 on the road. The Bears fall to 5-10. They're 2-6 in Soldier Field on the season. That was their final home game. And as was their course this year, they lost. The only 2 games they won at home were against Minnesota and Tampa Bay. So the Lions with a big victory on the road. And in this game, Matthew Stafford, 22 for 39, 243 passing yards, 2 interceptions. He had 2 yards rushing off of 4 carries. Jimmy Clausen was 23 for 39 with 181 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He had 9 yards on the ground off of 3 carries. The leading rusher in this game was Joique Bell. He had 13 carries for 74 yards and a touchdown. Reggie Bush had 7 carries for 54 yards. Matt Forte had 19 carries for 55 yards, along with 40 yards receiving off of 6 receptions, including a receiving touchdown. Bell actually had 13 yards receiving to go with his 74 yards rushing, and Bush had 44 yards receiving off of 6 receptions to go with his 54 yards rushing to give him 98 total yards. Golden Tate had 62 yards receiving off of 5 receptions, and the game's leading receiver was none other than Megatron Calvin Johnson Jr. had 6 receptions for 103 yards. The leading receiver for Chicago was Alshon Jeffery with 6 receptions for 72 yards. And Marquez Wilson had 7 receptions for 66 yards. The leading tackler in this game was actually for Chicago. Christian Jones had 11 tackles and a sack. The leading tackler for the Lions was DeAndre Levy. He had 8 tackles. And the Lions had 2 sacks in this game. They were both Dominican Sue. And the Bears had 4 sacks. Is Ratliff, Allen, Jones, and Bass. They each had 1 sack. That was the 4 sacks. And the Lions had 1 interception. That was Glover Quinn with that clutch interception at the end that sealed the victory. The Bears had 2 interceptions for Reen and Mundy. But the Lions were able to overcome those interceptions. And in the 4th quarter, the Lions outscored the Bears 10-0 as they closed this game out, as they came from behind for the 4th quarter victory. And they win this game with the final score, Detroit 20, Chicago 14.